Hello, Millie Welsh from Zebra Love Web Solution, and this video is all about how I personally got into web development. I happen to be shooting this video on May 4th, so I just want to say, May the 4th be with you. So growing up, I actually had a lot of access to computers because my dad is an engineer and he always had at least one functioning computer at my house. And I think it was like 92 or 93, my dad actually had access to the internet, and this was like very early internet, and he was doing something for work where he was on the internet, and he showed my brother and I, what the internet was. And I just remember thinking like, wow, I don't really fully understand what's happening here, but this is going to be pretty big. But even then, I didn't actually think that I was going to make this a career. When people ask me what I wanted to be when I was a kid, I always said I wanted to be an artist. And I actually did go to art school. I went to the School of the Art Institute in the early 2000s. And I studied animation as well as ceramics, which is kind of weird. But when I was in school, I always had these like weird conversations with my dad where he was like, what are you going to do with your life? Like, you can't make money as an artist. Basically, just to humor my dad, I started taking all of the art and tech classes that they had at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. I mean, it wasn't like that many classes, but you could take it more than once. I wasn't great at it right away, but I ended up taking the programming class that they had 3 separate times. And in this class, we were programming with this program called Director. So it was kind of more like doing animation, so it really kind of like fit into my major anyway. But you actually had to write code for the sprites to make them do things. And while I was taking some of these classes, I really discovered that I actually like to code and that coding was actually very creative. But even then, I didn't see it as a career option. So I ended up working at a pottery studio for a little while. So somehow while I was working at the pottery studio, they realized that I had tech skills. And so they were like, Millie, you should work on the website. And once I started working on the website, it felt like that's pretty much all I ever did. Additionally, the pottery studio that I worked for also had some kind of POS system that was tied to a MySQL database, and they had some custom software built for the supply store side of their business. And I remember every now and then the programmer would come in and I would do some very simple tasks like to assist him in whatever he was doing. But oddly enough, I got a lot of like web development experience working for a pottery studio. So it was around 2006, I decided essentially that I just wanted to make more money. And I thought that I could maybe start a web development company because pretty much everybody just wanted me to work on their websites all the time. And websites were not a new thing at the time, but it was still kind of the early days of the internet. So I did kind of get in on the ground level, and I was doing, pretty basic HTML websites back in 2006. So that's essentially the story of how Zebra Love Web Solutions got started. If you're curious about the name, I do have a video about that. But, basically, even at the beginning, I started to realize that, just knowing HTML was not going to be enough because people kept asking me for websites that wanted to and they wanted them to do things like cool things like sell products or, submit a contact form, which was like a whole thing back in those days. I quickly realized that I needed to learn more coding if I was going to build the kind of websites that would be really useful to my clients. So I started to read books about it. I read a lot of these PHP programming books from Larry Ellman. And they're great books and they're really visual. So they show you what the code should look like and everything. And basically that's how I got started into, PHP development. Along with the PHP, I started building MySQL databases to store data. I learned JavaScript. CSS came out and you didn't have to use tables all the time. I just built more and more stuff. I tried to keep up on all the new things. And just over time, that's how I got here. So I wake up every day really excited to go to work. I went to art school because I wanted to have a really creative job when I grew up, and I have that, you know. Writing code and building websites really fulfills me in a way that I think might be surprising to a lot of people, but it really is. It is a creative endeavor. I'm really happy that I got into web development when I did, because at the time there weren't a lot of website builders like there are today. I feel like there was a lot more motivation back in 2006 to learn to code than there would be today if you're just getting into web development now. But I do think there is a lot of value in actually learning how to code. So if you're working in web development, you know, you should learn. If you're watching this video thinking, hey, maybe web development's something I would like to try, I'm here to tell you that there are very little barriers to entry. It is something that you can learn to do on your own. You actually need only a few things to get started in web development. You're going to need a computer. You're going to need a text editor. You're going to need a FTP software of some sort, like you can download FileZilla for free online. And you're also going to need some kind of web hosting, but you can Google that. You can get into web hosting pretty inexpensively. As far as getting instruction on how to learn to code, there are tons of online resources. You could take some classes on something like Code School. There's a lot of other things like that available, or you could even just like pick up some Larry Oman books and be on your way. Anyhow, that's the story about how I got into web development. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at zebralovewebsolutions.com. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.